Salesforce announced its Q1 FY26 earnings just the other day, and there's a lot of things that were expected, right? Single-digit growth, a lot of talk about AgentForce, a lot of talk about AI, Informatica acquisition came up, and some things that, quite honestly, Salesforce and Benioff and others have said, but maybe not as clear or as direct as they did during this earnings call, which again, I'm always here to give kudos or to give credit. And I will tell you that this honesty, this openness about the why behind AI, behind data cloud that's being shared right now is very important. Not only because it shows an openness on the part of Salesforce and their executives, but it also is important to pay attention to, right? If customers listen and actually start to try to apply these things, like which I talk about all the time, it could actually be a real beneficial outcome for both the customer and Salesforce. So I'm going to get into a little bit of that. Before I do, let's get into the numbers. Okay, so total revenue, $9.8 billion, up 8%. That actually beat the analyst expectations of about $9.75 billion. The subscription and support revenue, which is the biggest part of this, $9.3 billion, that's up 8%. Professional services was a little over $500 million. That actually was down 3%. It's an area where, again, we've talked about this. They need to try to accelerate that. I know there's a lot of deals where they're trying to push in professional services or consulting dollars into the deal. We'll see where that goes. I don't think, again, this is going to be their biggest area because at the end of the day, they are, that's not their core business. If you think about that subscription revenue, you got Sales Cloud, $2.1 billion, up 7%. $2.3 billion for Service Cloud, up 7%. Platform and other, which includes Slack, Data Cloud, and AgentForce, $2 billion, up 14%. Marketing Commerce Cloud, growth was only 4%, coming in at $1.3 billion. And in fact, when I get to guidance, they're going to talk about a lot of where their thinking is going to go there is going to be offset. So any growth might be offset a little bit from Marketing Commerce Cloud in FY26, and I'll get to that in a minute. Integration Analytics, that includes Tableau and MuleSoft, $1.5 billion, growth of about 10%. Mentioned guidance. Always important to pay attention to guidance. So they're raising guidance about $400 million for their full year 26. They're expecting it to come in around 41 to 41.3 billion. That's ahead of expectations relative to the analyst community. They were thinking around 40.8 billion. Now, they did say that a lot of this is being driven by foreign exchange tailwinds. Okay, so it's not necessarily about the pipe, although Milano, Chief Revenue Officer, did mention that they have a strong pipeline. They're going to be hiring new salespeople, which is also interesting. But again, important to pay attention. They are raising the guidance, puts a new marker out there. They restated, right, the subscription and support revenue for the full year for FY26. Growth should be around 9%. So again, single digit. Driven by momentum in Data Cloud and AI or AgentForce, okay? Offset by the weakness in Marketing and Commerce Cloud. That's what I was mentioning before. So customers out there that are marketing, commerce, especially with competitive environments potentially out there, Adobe, HubSpot on the commerce side, you got Shopify. You know, there's a real opportunity here, especially if you're going to be able to give more to Salesforce, right? So make sure you play your cards right. Make sure you approach them the right way. I guarantee you Salesforce is going to try to get some early renewals, early commitments on GMV, probably ahead of Dreamforce, which will be ahead of their year end. So be smart about it. Some of the particulars, Data Cloud and AI, they say the revenues, right, or the ARR, annual recurring revenue, that's around $1 billion. 100 million in ARR is tied to AgentForce. They had 8,000 AgentForce deals. 4,000 of them are paid, right? So only half are paying. And that's important because it speaks volumes to a couple things. When I talk about openness and honesty, they're telling the market, at the end of the day, we're trying to get them to start using the flywheel effect, which I'll mention in a minute. We need them to start consuming. So if we have to give it for them for free or change some of the pricing models, which I'll talk about, don't worry about the revenue, right? 4,000 are paid of the 8,000. But once they start using it, our revenue is going to grow. Consumption is going to go. We're good. So all customers out there, I talk about this all the time, especially when it's consumption-based. Whether you stay on the number of conversations model, or you stay on the flex, or you move to the flex credit, which is based upon actions, it's still consumption-based. Make sure you have the right definitions. Make sure you have the right pricing. Make sure you have volume discount structures. Make sure you have future pricing protections. All of that has to be pushed to the table and executed appropriately. I don't care if you're even doing it for free. They need to tell you what it's going to look like if you start using. You need those commitments. Don't let Salesforce off the hook on that, because you can tell them, look, I know what you're expecting from me. Because you're telling the investment community, I'm part of the pool that you're going to get to start going like this, and the revenue is going to grow. So I need to be ahead of this. I want to be one of the smart customers. I want you to work with me as a partner. On this point, they mentioned 30% of their AgentForce bookings came from customers consuming more, right? So in-term growth. Critically important. I can't emphasize this enough. Whether it's AgentForce or whether it's Data Cloud, consumption models, it is going to be a key area where you have to make sure that you have your deal and your relationships and your commitments and your investments all buttoned up, even if you're going to be one of the non-paying customers out of the gate. Couple quotes. Talk about Informatica real quick. This is all coming down to, Benioff talks about excitement. He talks about the fact that this is going to be a big one. Robin Washington, the chief operating and financial officer, she talked about it as a critical component to accelerating the growth on Data Cloud and AI, and it all comes down to this. You can't have one without the other. That's the pitch. To have an agentic AI that's valuable, you also have the good data. So if you think about it, and Benioff said this, when you look at the customers that are using agentic AI right, they've got their data together. And that is what is really the key. This ability to unify or harmonize or activate all the data across the entire enterprise. That's what Benioff said. You got to get your data right. Informatica combined with Data Cloud and Tableau is going to be the way you can do that. That's what Benioff said. So all you customers out there, understand it's not just AgentForce, it's Data Cloud and AgentForce. Eventually it's going to be about Informatica, it's going to be about Tableau. They talk about Slack, right? Slack being kind of the hub there. They all tie together, and they understand that once one piece falls, they're going to try to push all of it, whether it happens immediately or over the term. So again, as you're approaching Salesforce, it's not just about the piece. Have them give you commitments, future pricing tables for non-committed products, Data Cloud, Tableau, Informatica, Slack, whatever it may be. Have them commit to it. Future pricing protections. Get that locked down. Tell them that I see your vision. I could be part of it, but I need to know now what it could cost, what it could look like, what commitments are you going to give me. Don't hold me to your old world of, well, when I can cut a check, I'll tell you then. Don't do that. Push Salesforce. I mentioned the flex credits. This is a new structure. I put content out about this. It's still consumption-based. It's still problematic. They've talked about it to the market as this is going to be an area to remove friction. We should see adoption accelerating. Again, use that in your conversations. Flywheel. Benioff said it. We're in the early days. This AI agent flywheel, it's working. He talked about the 120% growth tied to data and AI. Milano, Chief Revenue Officer, gets up there and talks about it. He even says, when you talk about harmony of the pieces, he says, look, my whole organization, all 13,000 people under me, they need to sell Data Cloud in Q2. They need to sell AgentForce in Q2. This is how we're going to grow to a high-end triple-digit growth. So he's putting the marker out there. We're telling our salespeople to push this. And by the way, we've hired 2,000 more salespeople. So again, there's an opportunity here if you do it right to get the right deal for today, but in the future as well.